And welcome to Corpses and Cocktails podcast. We're here with Brad, Jamie, and myself, Erin. Woo! Woo!
Ooh.
That
I sounded a bit like a depressed ghost. Ooh. I made myself laugh.
I don't have one of those.
I was pouring a drink. And I was like, "Yo, the worst bone to break, the heart." Okay.
No,
So dramatic.
I don't have one of those. That is confirmed
Look,
by many people.
I feel like we always start the episode with like someone's trauma. Yeah, it's a thing we do. True. Yeah. So I think I'm the only person who hasn't gone first. So
So you can go first.
Yeah. Not that I'm like beating you guys out of the way, but I do have a pretty good one. I have a pretty good one this week. I'm doing the Truro Serial Murders.
I've never heard of this.
So yeah, neither had I. I asked my mum. I was like, "Hey, like, what when you think of true crime and like specifically relating to us, what do you think of? Like, what cases come to mind?" She gave me a couple, and she brought up the Truro killings. And so our family's from Adelaide, Whyalla sort of area. And Truro is a town that's like 80 kilometers northeast of Adelaide. It's this is from Wikipedia, and you can tell. It's situated in an agricultural and pastoral district on the Sturt Highway east of the Barossa Valley, which you guys should love. Barossa Valley, very wine.
So whiny.
Yeah, hell yeah. So the Truro murders really center around the two. We kind of think there's two killers, so you'll see later, but it centers around Christopher Worrell and James Miller. So these men, Christopher Worrell and James, I'm going to be calling them Worrell and Miller just because it's easier than saying Christopher. You know, 3 syllables, very hard for me. They met in prison, and Christopher Worrell was in prison for rape. And Miller was in for
I'm sorry.
breaking and entering.
I thought you said white.
Yeah, he was in there for rape.
Wait.
He was raping those rascally wabbits.
Sorry.
So, and after they got out of prison, they got out at the same time, which kind of tells you a lot about our prison system. If a person went in for rape and a person went in for breaking and entering and they got out at the same time.
Yeah.
Just saying. And after they got out of prison, they moved in together and they started working together in a couple different things. But apparently Miller was gay and he was in love with Worrell. And Miller was a little bit older than Worrell. So basically he acted like kind of like a mentor to him, but he was kind of like in trance. Apparently Christopher Worrell was like really, really charismatic and he could like turn a room with like just a look. And according to his ex-girlfriend, so she's kind of biased. But
Biased, yeah.
She's like, yeah, my ex is so hot. Anyways, so Miller said that Worrell would let him perform sexual acts on him. But Worrell claimed that he was straight. Worrell was like, hey, I'll let you suck my dick, but I'm not gay. Which is, you know, that's good. And again, while he was doing this, Worrell would read BDSM magazines. It always comes back to the BDSM magazines. And so after a while of this sort of like semi-sexual relationship, they decided that it would probably be best if they just stayed friends. Obviously, because one was gay and one wasn't. So they became like more like siblings. They had that sort of like peer mentor sort of bond. And together they did some like really terrible shit. And it all started on the 23rd of December in 1976, when they killed Veronica Knight, who was 16. So Veronica was at a shopping centre with her friends when she became separated from them. And Christopher offered her a lift home and she accepted. Apparently he talked her into going for a drive in the Adelaide foothills instead of going straight home, because he was really charismatic. And she was just like, oh, he's a cool dude. Like, I mean, I don't know, but like, I can imagine like being talked into it when you feel sort of calm with someone who's like socially captivating. And Christopher parked with Veronica while Miller, he went for a walk, apparently, according to Miller. So this all comes from Miller. Everything we know about the case comes from Miller. So Miller went for a walk, and then when he returned, apparently he found Veronica dead in the car with Worrell. Apparently he and Worrell had a fight, and Worrell threatened him with a knife. So he then, helped him dump the body, as you do when, you find your pseudo-sexual love sibling with a dead body. You just, you help
Do
them.
everything together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Gross, but yeah. And after that, he was so shaken that he went to work straight the next day. So he clearly wasn't that bothered by it. And after this, there was a week break between victims. It was very bloodthirsty, very quick successions. And so the second victim was Tanya Kenny, and she was on the 2nd of January 1977, and she was 15. And all of these, he had sort of a type. He had he always went for really quite young adolescent girls. But Tanya Kenny was hitchhiking when she ran into the pair. She just arrived in the city from Victor Harbour, which is a place in Adelaide. They drove to Miller's sister's house, and Miller apparently sat in the car while Worrell and Kenny went inside. Worrell later returned and asked for help. Allegedly, an argument had occurred, and Worrell threatened to kill Miller if he did not help dispose of the body. So he had just killed her. He went into Miller's sister's house, and apparently Miller stayed in the car while he raped and killed this girl.
Miller's sister.
Yes. Miller's sister's house. He didn't kill Miller's sister.
Oh,
He killed Tanya Kenny at Miller's sister's house.
Right.
It's all very... Yeah. But he didn't go to Worrell's house. He didn't... So Worrell killed Kenny. And they all have very similar names. They buried her again at Wingfield, and went to work straight again the next day. So they weren't at all disturbed with the actions of Worrell. I think he was just too in love with him to care at this point. And then we have the third victim, which was 2 weeks later, which was Juliet Makita. She was waiting at a bus stop. Can you imagine waiting for a bus and that's how you die? Today, how that, yeah. I was can you imagine dying at the dentist? Ugh. She was waiting for a bus stop. She had just finished working in the city when Christopher offered her a lift home. Christopher Worrell offered her a lift home. And instead, he drove her to Port Wakefield. Unlike the other times where James Miller sat in the car while... So instead of the other times where James Miller went for a walk, he sat in the car this time. So he was present. This is the one that he claimed to be present for. As he was waiting there, he saw that Christopher tied this girl up, Juliet. And apparently this wasn't weird for Chris, as he was into that. He was big into the BDSM community, and James knew that, and so he was he's just being kinky, and he's sitting in the car. That's what I don't get. This is just so normal. Have you... I don't want to say have you ever been in the car when your friend has done weird rope bondage sex? Because
absolutely.
I can't.
All the time.
Every day. And then apparently after she was tied up, Miller went for a walk. And as he went to take this walk, he heard a disturbance, and Makita was out of the car and falling to the ground, and Worrell flipped her over and began strangling her. Miller apparently tried to pull Worrell off, but he was not strong enough. And again, after she was dead, Worrell threatened to kill him. Makita's remains were also found at Truro. So all of these killings happened along a long stretch of land near Truro. It's you remember your Snowtown murders, where they call them the Snowtown murders, but they didn't necessarily happen in the town. It's like that.
Right, they were all buried.
Yes.
All
So
the bodies were all found.
yes. Miller claims that he had nothing to do with these killings. That he was just a not a passerby, but a passive sort of like viewer. Which is still, would you argue that that's still as bad? Like, because you're not intervening. It's like how 2 weeks ago we were like, oh, you have to call the cops.
I mean, like, you're not doing anything, but you're also not doing anything. You're not doing anything to stop it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And there's 7 victims in total, and it's all very similar. Sylvia Pittman, who died on the 6th of February in 1977, she was 16. She was picked up as she waited for a train at Adelaide railway station. Just like Victoria Knight, they drove to the Wingfield area where Miller went for a walk, apparently, and later helped dispose of her body. All the victims were usually strangled and also shot. So he fully developed an MO. He fully had a hunting tactic. They would go out together. Christopher and James would go out together, and they'd sort of look for people to pick them up for sex, and then that slowly turned into Christopher raping people while James watched, and it sort of like it snowballed, and then I think James just got caught up. That's what he says. He got caught up, and one time. This is when he found out that Chris was also doing this alone. So he thought it was like their special fun time bonding thing. When apparently James ran into Vicky Howell, who was the 5th victim, with Christopher at a post office. They stopped the car again at the Wingfield area. According to Wikipedia, I couldn't actually find anything to corroborate that's where she died. But that's what Wikipedia says. And apparently Miller went for a walk. He returned after his walk. This is like a weird story. He went for a walk, and usually he comes back, the body's dead, right? The person's dead. But he went for a walk and he came back and nothing was wrong. So he went for another walk and then came back and then she was dead. But my question is like, so he knows these walks are going to come back and there's going to be a body. So that sort of says something really odd and eerie to me.
Like he was expecting them to die.
Well, I think he knew. This is victim 5, so he knows something's happened. This is 5 victims in a month. This is a month. So number 6 is. And I'm going to say this wrong. It's Connie Laudenides. She was also known as Connie Jordan. And this was the 9th of February, which is 2 days after the last killing. She was 16. She was picked up 2 days later. And you don't really hear about, like, rage killings, like frenzy killings, they're called. She got picked up.
Really escalating.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
And, like, that's what I wanted to accentuate with, like, keeping the dates in here, because it's, like, such short successions. It's, like, Sylvia Pittman and Vicky Howell were a day apart. 1 day. Like, they're just going and going and going. My question is, like, wouldn't you be tired after digging a hole?
I was actually just thinking that.
Yeah.
I was like, one day, I was like, by the time that you bury the body, get home, have a shower, rest, eat.
Go to work.
Like, let yourself comprehend what you've just done.
Yes.
That's really fucking quick.
Oh, yeah, so...
And you would think, a lot of, like, murderers, they like to sit on their murders and reimagine it, revisit the site. This person's just, like...
Just going.
Yeah, like
just
you said,
going.
Massive. Yeah.
Completely just going. And that's, very, very terrifying. But Connie Laudenides was died. Oh my God. She was 16 and she actually realized when they started driving in the wrong direction. He didn't do the thing where he charmed her into going somewhere. So usually he'd like talk them into going somewhere to have sex. And he didn't do this. He just straight up picked her up and started driving in the wrong direction. So she starts freaking out. and Miller stopped. So Miller was driving, and they stopped at Wingfield, and Worrell forced her into the back seat while Miller did nothing. He apparently left the car for a while. After returning, she was dead. They drove to Truro to dispose of the body. Oh, fuck. Three more. So Deborah Lamb was 20.
Can I just ask, what was the town like? Or what was the area of Adelaide like?
So Adelaide.
What year was this?
This is, it stretches from 1976 to 1977.
Adelaide, okay, so apart from the 70s already being absolutely fucked.
Nutso. Fully nuts.
Completely nuts. Like, this is the year of Ted Bundy.
Yes.
Like, you've got everyone. And I'll explain why later. But also,
Acid.
my my case is in Adelaide in the 70s too.
Oh shit.
So I was like, I stopped at first when you were like, when you said the name of your murders, and I was like, do mine have like another name that I don't know about?
Yeah.
So obviously Adelaide was just off its tits at this point.
So my family's from Adelaide, and my mum's like, oh, don't go to Adelaide. Like, not to offend any Adelaide listeners, but fuck, your place is all full of serial killers, full of like just serial killers up the arse. Like, when you look up like Aussie murders, you see a ton in South Australia.
Yeah.
But
just want to visit Adelaide now for the murders.
Yeah.
I went through it. I went through it on the way to to Northern Territory, because we went from Melbourne to Adelaide. And that's a bit dull.
It is a bit dull. It's like long flat plains kind of.
Yeah, I remember all the canola fields.
Yeah.
Just like yellow flowers.
But it's so this place, it's like very sort of drab. It's south of Whyalla but north of Adelaide. It's like along, not a peninsula, but there's like a big lake, which I have like kind of a spooky story about, but I'll tell it on another day. And it's just kind of like, you know, you wouldn't expect it to be happening, because like these people are in a big city, like they expect to be seen and for there to be like an accountability, but there's just not. They're just getting picked up and taken away. But yeah, again, he helped dispose of the body. And I was up to Deborah Lamb. So there's two Deborahs in this. Deborah Lamb and Deborah Skews, and they were about 7 days apart, which is one of the biggest gaps that we have here. Deborah Lamb was hitchhiking on the West Terrace when they picked her up. They drove to Port Gawler, where Miller went for his daily walk. And when he returned to the car, Lamb was absent. And Worrell was pushing sand into a hole with his foot. Lamb was later found buried alive. He buried her alive. Instead of strangling her, he beat her up and pushed her into a sand dune, and then pushed sand on top of her, suffocating her to death. Yes, that is... I don't want to say the scariest one to me, but like...
Yeah, no, that's the scariest to me.
Fuck. And the last victim that is recorded, that we know about for sure, is Deborah Skews. And Deborah Skews was a friend of the pair. Skews was the ex-girlfriend of Christopher and James's friend. So she was like you kind of know her. And after her breakup, Miller and Worrell, so Chris and James, took her to Mount Gambier for the weekend. But after Chris got into one of his black moods... So James described Chris's like murderous tendencies as black moods, where he would just like shut down and like be very scary and standoffish and angry. And so that's how he knew something bad was going to happen. After Chris got into one of his black moods, Miller decided, like, we need to get out of here. And they decided to return to Adelaide on the Saturday afternoon. And while Chris was driving, the car blew a tyre, rolled several times, and threw all three of them onto the road. Christopher Worrell and Deborah Skews were killed instantly. Yes. Wow. And James Miller broke his shoulder blade. So he again walked away from a killing.
Went for a walk.
Yeah,
came back.
he went for a walk. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
So those were the official victims, but I have like a one-step removal from this case. My mum knew one of the suspected victims of the pair. In 1978, a young woman's body was found near Murray Bridge. The skeletal remains were incredibly hard to identify because they'd been like so heavily decomposed because they're running water. It soon became evident that they belonged to a young lady who was 20 years old named Maria Dickinson. She'd been shot through the head. So it's thought that this murder was linked to Worrell and Miller a lot later because of the way she was killed, because a lot of them were shot in the head and strangled. But Maria Dickinson was actually my mum's classmate when they were kids. They were in the same class and they sat next to each other in primary school. So she heard about this killing. She's like, I know that name. And so she looked into it. And it was her. Christopher Worrell was killed in a car accident on Feb 19th, 1977, ending the murder spree. James Miller survived and became like super, super depressed because the love of his life had died. And after Christopher's death, he became homeless. And at Christopher Worrell's funeral, James was talking to Christopher's ex, and the ex-girlfriend told James that Chris had a suspected blood clot, and that's why he had been like so crazy, and that's why they broke up. So they broke up before he died, because like Christopher was getting crazy and crazy and crazier, and like he was getting these really bad moods. So it like could theoretically be explained by a blood clot, because he didn't have those like rumination periods. He just had like bang, kill. Like it wasn't like there wasn't an escalation per se. But yeah, and then for some reason James was like, Amelia, which is the ex-girlfriend, let me just talk to you about your ex-boyfriend's obsession with thrill killing. And he was like, yeah, because he thought that she knew for some reason. I'm not sure why. And she was like, okay, let me just like go over there. But you'd think like if you got told that your ex-boyfriend, who you liked, who just died, was a killer, what would you do?
I can't give my opinion on this because a lot.
You're like it could happen. It could happen.
Not saying anything.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be terrifying because you'd be like,
it would be horrible.
Yes.
Yeah. You'd be like, why wasn't I? Like, how was I not killed?
But would you tell the police? What would you do straight away? Or like, I think I would tell the police instantly. But she didn't. She kept it to herself. Mainly because she thought that there was no evidence. And because back then you need physical evidence to prosecute. And so James Worrell just went on about his time. He continued to visit Deborah and Christopher's plots in the local cemetery, and a year after Christopher died, he posted an in memoriam in the paper that said, Worrell, Christopher Robin. Memories of a very close friend who died 12 months ago this week. Your friendship and thoughtfulness and kindness, Chris, will always be remembered by me, mate. What comes after death, I can hope as I pray we meet again. I'd just like to underline your friendship, thoughtfulness, and kindness. Murderer, but he's very thoughtful and kind.
But kind.
He buried someone alive, thoughtful and kind.
Kind, threatened to kill me, thoughtful and kind.
Yes. And after a year after Christopher's death, Amelia collected the $30,000 reward for giving essentially the information that led to Miller's arrest. So she collected a $30,000 payout. Amelia said to press that she didn't want to go to the police because there was no proof, and her ex-boyfriend was already dead, obviously. But she told them after a $30,000 reward got put up. So, I mean,
persuasion.
It seems very convenient that she found out. It just seems weird that she found out at the funeral and she didn't tell anyone. That's led a lot of... it's speculative, completely speculative, that she was involved, or at least knew about it. prior to when she says she knew about it.
She probably like had her suspicions. Like if you date someone and like she was probably like, yeah, you know what, he was a little bit creepy. This makes sense.
Yeah.
But also I guess also at the same time you don't believe everything that everyone tells you. Like also like that's a big thing to believe. Like for someone to be like, you know, your ex-boyfriend has killed a bunch of females, you'd be like probably also denial, because you'd be like, okay, like no, like, you know, I dated him.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And it could just be a coincidence that like she went to the police as like $30,000 got offered. But you know,
but I mean, and also like it's probably a bit of persuasion. Like if they're like, you know what, like you've probably heard like rumors or something, and then they're just rumors. But then the police are like, hey, $30,000 for the same subject. You'd be like, hey, why not?
I mean, it shows that rewards do help.
Yeah. Well, and so... we should offer them. We have the money. So initially he denied knowing anything about any of the killings, but pretty soon after they started interrogating him, he cracked and said that Amelia did what he should have, admitting there were 3 more bodies to the 4 that they'd already found. They drove him under police arrest to the Wingfield dump. The dump, so like where they dump trash, and he pointed out the 3 bodies that they had buried at the dump. Yes. Investigators believe that if Worrell hadn't died in that accident, his murder spree would have gotten worse and worse due to his growing erratic behaviours and the shortening length between the killings. It was revealed in testimony that Miller would pick up women with Worrell off the street to have casual sex with, and then Worrell would tie them up and have sex with them while Miller waited outside the car. Cuck. Then he would drive them both back to town. However, that's when the spiralling started and the rape started. And he started beating up the women who refused his advances, and then that obviously spiraled into murder. And at age 39, James Miller stood trial and was found guilty of 6 of the 7 murders. The one missing being Veronica Knight. I couldn't find why he wasn't prosecuted. I think it was because that was the one that he said he wasn't there for. But like all of the ones he said he went for a walk, so I don't understand. Maybe there was like the least evidence because the body was like the most eroded, but he got 6 consecutive life sentences, which is good news. And he said later, "It's bullshit that I was charged for murder." He believed that he should have received a far more lenient sentencing as he wasn't there. He was granted a second hearing on the grounds that the judge may have instructed the jury to find him guilty. So they thought that the judge had told the jury like how to find him. And then the Attorney General was like, no. So he refused to give him a second hearing. And at one point he was one of the longest serving prisoners in Australia. He was granted parole in 2014. He was granted the opportunity of parole in 2014. However, in 2008, at age 68, James Miller died of liver failure as a result of having Hep C. He also had prostate cancer and lung cancer. Yes. So we will probably never know the true version of events unless we have like some magic technology later down the line. As the only other witness was dead. We can only imagine like how many more victims of Christopher Worrell and James Miller there may be, but they're both dead. So we will never know.
Wow.
Shit, I did not know about this.
That's intense.
Yes. Yeah.
Intense. I'm so glad he was convicted guilty though.
Yes.
Like I was
thinking,
because he's just, you know, I know there's that whole thing, but he didn't actually wield the hammer or he didn't, you know, kill them.
Yeah, culpable.
He still knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think it was good to show the public that, listen, you might not have killed someone, but you were still responsible for the killing if you didn't stop it by going to the police.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's one of the only cases where someone who didn't contribute has been convicted of murder. And that's why.
Wow.
I think that's very interesting.
I was actually surprised that he got all like 6 life sentences. I was expecting like, you know, manslaughter or second-degree murder or something.
No, he got fully convicted
so that's good.
Of murder on all, because like you can't be there and not contribute? Like I suppose you could theoretically, but why? Like that's my question. If you know your friend, and he's not romantic with you, like he called everything off. Like why would he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that.
And he was burying the bodies. He admitted to burying the bodies. So
burying them at the dump. At the dump. That's where they got
Dumps
buried.
scare me, man. Dumps scare me.
Like that's where that it's so incredibly disrespectful, and like it's just so gross. Like so gross. Why would you? It's like I'm burying them at the feces processing plant. Like you don't.
Yeah, I mean, like it is a good place to bury a body in terms of that. People may look there, but there's so much shit that you're not going to be surprised if you don't find anything.
Yeah, the likelihood of actually finding a body is...
Plus things get trash compacted.
You'd have to...
And if it's gross enough, there's probably like a decomposition speed up or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it stinks already. It stinks already there. So, like... Yeah. Okay, well, I've done mine on my phone because I was watching a documentary. So this is all from a documentary. It's called The Price of Honor. And I just saw it on YouTube. So I kind of recommend it if you guys want to look into it and you want to kind of learn a bit more of the details. I do recommend going through there. So it is about the murder of Amina and Sarah Saeed. So I'll just tell you a bit about them. Amina was she was second born. So first girl, firstborn was Islam Saeed and Amina was the second. She loved pink. Very girly, but also had a bit of a tomboy side as well. Loved sports, loved going to karate. They were really gorgeous girls. Amina, had a full ride scholarship to a Texas college. This takes place in Texas, by the way. And just really had a very big bright future ahead of them. Sarah was more of the tomboy. She also did karate. She was very academic, Sarah, and she always was talking about school, always on top of school, and, they were both just very, very bright. So Amina had a boyfriend, Joseph, super close. They had a very, very close relationship. Like, it's not a typical teenage romance. This was one that was going to last a really long time. Sarah also dated Eric, who was a really had a beautiful, special spirit as well. I'm sad
already.
Fat.
I'm sad.
I'm fat already.
No, I said I'm sad already. Like, this is gonna be a heavy hitter. I can feel it.
I don't know what I heard, but I was like, her and her brother had a very special connection. It wasn't like regular dating. I was like, yeah, fucking right. It wasn't like regular dating. No shit.
Did I say brother?
I don't think so. I think I just heard it wrong. I
didn't hear brother.
I was like, wow, yeah, they really did have a special connection. That's sort of like South Carolina special connection. That Take Me Home Country Road special connection. Goddamn.
Okay, no, they were not hillbillies like that.
Wow.
Their background, their mother was from Texas, America, but their father was born in Egypt, and he was on a student visa in America. So this is Yasser Saeed. He's the oldest of 5 kids, and he came to America on a student visa going to college. When he was 30, he met Patricia, who was 15 years old. And Yasser went to Patricia's parents, they were a very poor family, very poor. And Yasser went to the parents and said, "I'll look after your daughter. I will give her everything she wants. I've got money. I have a home. I can protect and look after your daughter." And they're like, "Well, we don't have a lot of money." And Patricia really wanted to get out of the poor, from being poor. So she agreed, as well as the parents. 15.
Gross.
He was 30.
Gross.
So yeah, not very good. And so he was, I think he was looking for the green card because he was, wasn't American. So he got the green card, and 6 months into the relationship, it started going really downhill. There was a lot of
What?
physical abuse. I know. Surprising.
Really?
Um,
He bought a child. He bought a child and then didn't treat it well. That's crazy.
It's incredibly surprising. I don't understand how that could have happened.
No.
No.
I cannot even imagine.
It was incredibly controlling. He stopped her contacting her family. He kind of didn't want her to continue bringing up that American lifestyle. And then there was physical abuse within about 6 months of the relationship. So she had her first child at 16 with a 30-year-old. I'd like to just keep kind of bringing that up. And it's what made Patricia very upset the most is that he had 6 affairs that she knew of. That she knew of. And Yasser worked as a taxi driver. So she had a second child about 18, and then her third child, Sarah, at 19.
Very
young.
Can I ask? He said he had a lot of money. He's a taxi driver. And the parents were like, "Oh wow, big money." Hang on.
Money.
What kind of money were they on? Were they like ookie spooky?
Really not on any.
It was definitely. I think they were very, very poor. Like just absolute. Maybe farmland.
When
I'm thinking like living in a caravan.
This was, I think, 1980, very late 80s.
I'm thinking Great Depression. I'm thinking like
taxi
driver is rich. That's like
I'll buy your daughter for 3 days.
Yeah.
It shows that she must have grown up in a very, very poor,
How did they meet?
Poor household. She started originally dating Yasser's brother. So he's the oldest. So she started dating the younger one. I think maybe he was about 25.
Right.
They broke up and she moved on to Yasser.
Hang on. 25-year-old was dating a 14-year-old. 15. Ew. What the fuck is wrong with them? Not trying to be judgmental.
I know. Well, it is. It's not wrong. That is, that's literal pedophilia there. So you can just see that family dynamic was not very good at all. And I do want to say that Yasser himself maybe wasn't the richest man, but his family was quite rich. Some of his brothers owned businesses. Some other brothers, they don't actually know what they do, but they do come from and do have some money, and they are very close, that family. Very close. Yasser Saeed family. So, we'll get onto when Amina and Sarah kind of turn into teenagers, 15, 14. So American girls, they want freedom, they want jobs, they want to just have a typical American, life where they can date whoever they want. However, Yasser, being from an Egypt culture, Middle Eastern background, he did not want that at all. Didn't want the girls dating Americans, and he was very controlling of them, incredibly controlling. And Amina started, opening up about her, her home life with Joseph, her really close boyfriend at the time, that her father was really controlling, and she started opening up more and more, and she was sharing lots of horror stories. She opened up that her dad often touched her and would rape her. Patricia, her mother, took her to the hospital with Sarah, and they both opened up about being raped, being molested by their father, being controlled. And during this time, so Trish had moved out of the house with the children, and Yasser would call her minutes at a time, every day. He threatened her family, he threatened her, he threatened the children for them to come back. And I want to bring up the fact that she was very young when she met Yasser, and she was incredibly manipulated by this relationship.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough to be like, oh, you're a mother, you're meant to protect your children. Also, like, she was a
It's not
child
that
when
black
she
and
met
white.
him.
It's really not that black and
Yeah,
white.
it's incredible. That line there has been very muddled. So, due to Yasser continuously calling Trish, at her sister's house, she feared for her, family's life. So she agreed to come back home. Trisha told the children that they should tell the hospital that they lied about the abuse. And so they did. They said that they lied and that they hadn't been touched. So during the documentary that I watched, there was a lot of videos, home videos of Yasser, zooming into the girls' bottoms, zooming into their eyes, their privates, their boobs, and he had an incredibly deep voice. I'm not trying to offend people with really, really deep voices, but this was a deep, and you'd like, oh, that's so beautiful. Like, I can't go that deep. It was horrifying. Like, and you just like, oh, that's so nice. It was, it made me shiver. I could not look. I could not listen. And these girls on video, they were trying to cover themselves up and be like, Dad, stop. Like, don't do that. Oh, incredibly creepy.
Normal
Incredibly.
people are like, oh my God, Dad, stop. You're embarrassing me, when they're telling like a joke.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, stop it. Oh.
And stop being fucking creepy. Like, oh.
That's so gross. But who are those videos for? Were they just for him? Because that makes me think like he's giving it to someone else.
I think that it was just for him. I think it was the family. It was like
Gross.
just the family. Yeah.
It's quite common in cases where like the dad's doing the abusing, and even though child trafficking is a big thing, they have those home videos just for themselves. It is quite common.
Yeah.
So let me just see where I'm up to. Yeah, so it was obviously going on, very obvious. So Patricia, she was told about the abuse. She was told by her daughters, she was told by her family, and Trish didn't want to believe it. Amina and Sarah were often taken to Egypt because Yasser did not want the girls to marry Americans. He was going to sell them off to older Egyptian men. And they did not want this. Because these girls grew up, they were born in America. They were Americans, that's the only language that they knew. And they were terrified. Every time that they went to Egypt, they never thought that they were going to come back. They thought that they were going to be married off.
Every time they went to YouTube, I was like...
Sorry. No, yeah, so they were terrified. About this time, Amina was 17 and Sarah was 16. Yasser found out about the boyfriends. And this was when they moved without telling anyone. Yasser threatened the girls. He said that he was going to kill them. Patricia heard this. And finally, she was like, right, enough's enough. And she escaped with the children. They also went with Sarah's boyfriend, Eric, and as well as one of Amina's close friends. They went away from all their family and they rented a new apartment, changed their numbers, threw out their old phones. They had no, Amina had no way of contacting Joseph, but it was the safest point for them at this time. However, someone got their new numbers, and this was when Trisha was convinced to come home. So this was around Christmas time, a little bit after Christmas and getting close to New Year's. Amina refused to go home. She did not want to go home, and her mother said to her, listen, you need to come home. She would call her daughter every day. It's safe. It's safer. I promise. He won't be there. He won't be living in the house. You're safe. And this eventually convinced her to come home. So on January 1st, Yasser said that he was going to take the girls out for dinner to just talk about everything, to kind of clear the air, a bit of a white flag. And stopped in front of a hotel in his taxi and shot them multiple times. Shot Sarah twice and shot Amina 9 times. Sarah was on the phone to 911 screaming. There is an audio of a 911 call if you want to hear. You can hear him coming back to attack her again. Not for the faint of heart. It is horrible. Part of the documentary, I was bawling my eyes out. It was incredibly traumatic for them and for everyone. Just can't imagine what they went through. And unfortunately, though, they did both pass away. So I do want to say that they were, Yasser was Muslim. However, there is nothing in the Quran that says honor killing is legal. So this is all culture. This is all society of Middle East. This is where honor killing is. So honor killing is basically trying to bring the family honor. It is often the females that are killed if they dishonor the family. And this is celebrated a lot of the time in that culture. Killing a family member, mostly a female family member, and that again brings honor back to the family. But it is murder. It is clear murder. It's
got killing in the name. It's killing in the name.
Literally, it's honor killing, and it's first of all, it shouldn't happen anyway. But second of all, it should not be happening in America. That is illegal to happen in America. So, however, Yasser wasn't even religious. He didn't even go to, the mosque every week. He didn't do that, didn't pray. They were buried, which makes me really upset. They were buried in a Muslim cemetery, even though they did not believe in the religion or the culture at all. So, Yasser has been missing since the killings. He has not been found. It is believed that his family is covering for him to keep him hidden. The family had paid off someone that Yasser had killed. He got really angry at this man before this is before his children were born. He ran over a man and ran over him about 3 times. And they were able to get him off the murder with money.
What?
So, yeah.
This is so much about like the American system.
It shows how messed up. So one of the family members was on the phone to Yasser for 861 minutes a week prior to the murders. So you can see that like they were involved somehow. And the police actually hadn't even interrogated Patricia, the mother, or Islam, who is the oldest son. They didn't even talk to the Yasser's brothers. So the documentary that I'm talking about was made in 2014. And this was actually when the police were like, okay, we should probably take a bit more of an interest in this. They put, Yasser was on FBI's 10 most wanted list in 2014. They also put a reward, $100,000 reward for his arrest. And wow. I just want to say, he was actually found on the 27th of August. So 5 days ago. He was found.
No,
he has been found.
Where was he?
Yes.
Oh my god.
He was still in Texas because he could not fly out. He did not have the passport or anything to do that. He was found out by an informant not an informant, he was a maintenance worker had seen him in an apartment complex in 2017. And so the police were able to kind of like piece together and figure out that he'd finally moved to an apartment that Islam, his son, was renting. So
Bitch.
Islam was arrested, as well as Yassim, which is one of his brothers. So his family was in fact hiding him for 12 years. The murders took place in 2008. So for 12 years, he has been on the run and he has just been arrested 5 days ago. So it is incredible. He hasn't been found guilty, but it is very, very obvious that he's done it. And as well, his family members that were found with him in the house have been arrested as well. So Patricia had said that, she's really happy for his arrest and says that the girls can finally rest in peace. Yassin and Islam both faced up to 5 years if convicted, and Yasser also faces the death penalty.
Thank God.
In a statement, the girl's family said the announcement of the suspect's arrest had brought tears of elation and shouts of triumph for us. And also the statement said that the family was relieved to finally begin the chapter to justice after bright and promising lives were torn away. That is the horrific deaths of Amina and Sarah, and finally justice a couple days ago.
Wow.
Steps of justice. So, whoa.
So
Crazy. I mean, yeah.
Patricia left, obviously, him when he started on the run. Okay,
Multiple
just to,
times, yeah.
yeah.
So
That's scary.
Yeah, it's crazy that he hadn't been found for so long, and that this documentary actually pushed,
Reinvigorated.
Yes, they were like, you have not done enough. The police have not done enough to, you know, anything for these girls.
It's actually like nuts.
Yeah, so he has been found. Thank God. He has been arrested. And throughout this entire, when I watched the documentary, it was 2014, none of them had been arrested, but they were suspecting the family in Islam of, you know, potentially doing something. Now, I want to say in regards to Islam, the girl's older brother, he did love them a lot, and he was seen speaking to the family, speaking to cameras like, oh, my dad should really just give himself up. He needs to just go to the police. However,
but that seems like he's just covering himself.
Exactly. Well, a couple months later, he was like, the girls deserve to die. You know, they have shamed the family name. I do want to say he has an intellectual disability, and he does receive money from the government. But I mean, disability isn't an excuse, because I mean, but it just shows that he was so easily manipulated to
it just
hide his father.
Was he manipulated, or was he like just, you know, complicit? Because like
yeah, that's the thing. But in the family, the son, the firstborn son, he was treated with absolute respect. He was loved. He was put on a podium, like, oh, you are my son, you are loved, you can do no wrong. And the girls were like, you cannot do this, you cannot do anything. I will follow you to your work. I am going to video you wherever you are, because
I'm going to zoom into your butt.
Literally, but so
when did you watch the documentary?
Was about 3 days ago. But I'd seen it before, so I remembered some of it.
So did you see that he was caught and then you went back and rewatched it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really weird. I know. And then he was found.
Well, because I remember when they said he was found, I was like, and it was like, you know, on the killings, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember this. I remember watching this documentary a couple of years ago, and there was no justice then.
Yeah.
So, I'm just so happy that I can actually bring you guys a bit of it.
Let's truly hope. Yeah. Because like with that documentary,
we should give an update when he gets sentenced.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that documentary, hopefully he's not like, well, there's obviously media bias and he doesn't get let off for that. I really hope, because there's been a lot of cases where there's been like, well, surely there couldn't be a fair jury in the world.
Like,
she's jazzed. She's jazzed. She's ready to go. She's gonna fight someone.
I'm on my third Cosmo and I feel fine, which is really unusual.
Oh, what do Cosmos taste like? We were meant to talk about this.
Are they good? Is it a good mix?
That's the one I got from Woolworths. Next to the cordial brand.
What does it taste like?
It tastes sour, so it's pretty much just cranberry juice.
Oh.
Contain your excitement. God,
it's really disappointed.
Well, I just assume that it's gonna be like mango tits and like, you know, special cool things.
So the one that I found online was Quancho, which is this, what does it taste like?
Is that Quancho?
Orange.
Is that Contro or Quancho?
Yeah. I don't. Depends if you want to be Italian or English.
Neither.
Oh, fancy.
I mean, it does say cointro. Trio.
Coin
Coin
trio.
trio.
Coin.
It's a coin
You're
trio.
Australian.
It's a concho.
trio.
It's a concho. Concho.
Quattro. Which is orange flavor liqueur,
Wow.
and then cranberry, and then
Sounds really
vodka.
It sounds really, really good.
It's sour. It's just yum.
And it's alkalizing your urinary tract. Thanks, cranberries.
Yeah, and I put vodka and I put mineral water in it
Hell
as well,
yeah.
just to make it a bit not as spicy.
My question is, why isn't piss fizzy? Hmm? You don't do pee farts. You don't do pee farts.
You don't?
Yeah. Maybe I do.
I do. No, I'm kidding.
Anyways, your murder, good sir.
Okay, yep. Let's get back to it. So, it was kind of an annoying case to Google. Like 3 of like the 7 cases that came up were like, pay for the subscription, fuck you, Rupert Murdoch.
Oh, it's terrible. Oh, you had a hard time researching someone else's death? Oh.
I know.
That's so hard for us. Oh,
It's a rough one.
oh wow.
So I am covering the Bartholomew family, which happened in 1971. So here we go. So this is obviously in Adelaide. This is in Wallen, so just outside of Wallen, which is why I was like, Brad, oh shit,
Yeah.
covering my case, but thankfully you weren't. So I'm gonna get a bit serious here. Bartholomew had snapped. He later wrote that with those screaming noises that was splitting my head open wide, and then that horrible look on my wife's face, I couldn't control my actions. Clifford Cecil Bartholomew was married to Heather Alice Bartholomew, who already had a child from a previous marriage. They end up having 7 children together. So Bartholomew had moved out. They end up having some marriage difficulties. They just were estranged. Things weren't going well. So he moved out, and later on Father's Day, they were having a dinner that night, and they went to a dairy farm in Hope Forest near Wollonga on September 6, 1971. Bartholomew had become convinced that his wife was having an affair with a Vietnam soldier who was staying on the farm. Police later determined that she wasn't. He had come to these conclusions because she was his wife was she was estranged, as I said, but she was very kind of hostile with him. She would do everyone's washing, including the Vietnam soldiers' washing, but she wouldn't do Bartholomew's washing. She just left it. She would let him look after himself, cook.
Petty Betty, I'm very into it. It takes more effort to
like,
separate her washing. It takes more effort.
Literally.
And I am all
She was
about
like,
that.
fuck you. She was like, I am done. She was pretty much like, I am done.
It's like I'm doing everyone's dishes except my brother's because I'm pissed off. You know what I mean? I'm very into that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they were like, oh, police determined it wasn't an affair. Also, if it was an affair, you still don't get to kill her. Surprise. Yeah.
Surprise. Yeah, literally. So he'd intercepted a letter from the soldier to his wife, and so this was on the farm. He stormed off, and he came back at 1 a.m. with 2 rifles and a rubber mallet. So
What's it going to do with a rubber mallet? Sorry.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
We're going to find out, Brad.
Yeah, shut up, Brad. I'm kidding.
Shit.
Sorry. Let me speak. So the victims included Heather Alice Bartholomew, who was 40, his wife; Neville Bartholomew, 19, his son; Christine Heather Bartholomew, his daughter, who was 17; Sharon Ann Bartholomew, 15, his daughter; Helen Joy Bartholomew, 13, his daughter; Gregory Kim Bartholomew, his son, who was 10; Roger Clifford Bartholomew, 7, his other son; Sandra June Bartholomew, 4, his daughter; Winnis Mary Keane, 26, his Heather's sister; and Daniel Brian Sean Keane of 18 months, which is the son of Winnis Mary Keane.
How many killings is
So
that?
altogether there were 10 victims.
Fuck.
10.
So he walked into the house and he hit his wife with the rubber mallet before shooting her.
Fuck.
As the family was roused with the noises, he systematically shot them all. His sister-in-law and his 7 children, ranging in age from 19 to 4.
Erin, stop laughing. Why are you laughing? You're a sociopath. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Your face.
Why does this happen when I go last?
Why are you laughing?
I'm trying to be really serious. This is what you're telling us about everyone that's dying.
Erin, you're a horrible person, just terrible.
I just need to let it out. I'm so sorry. Oh,
Get it over with. I'll drink.
I saw her, she was going. I was like, holy shit. She's about to explode. She's about to explode.
Look at my phone and I looked up and I saw Brad laughing.
I was like,
no.
It's because I saw you. You were trying. You're like.
when she was like, oh, he came in and hit her over the head with a rubber mallet. I was envisioning one of those blow-up toys.
I was like, Brad.
One of those blow-up toys. It was like, he hurt. You know what I mean? Like the clown nose sounding ones. Like I envisioned that, and not like a rubber mallet. And I was like,
Oh my God.
and then it was like shot in the head. I was like,
It got serious.
sorry
It
about
escalated
that.
quickly.
Sorry about
No,
that.
I got it out. I'm sorry. I'm being serious. This is really sad.
Yeah, you look sad.
You
You look super sad. I never thought I'd have to make this video. I am so sad.
Oh my God. People are going to be listening to this and think that we've just lost our shit.
Yeah.
They're like, the violence has gotten to their head. Like,
Look,
Oh my god, well.
it's been an hour and 3 drinks, and it's a lot for us.
you and your solo.
Yeah. Hey, I'm riding solo.
Ooh.
Anyways,
Okay.
continue. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I had the giggles.
I saw Erin.
The
I was
worst
like,
possible time to have the giggles.
Ian, we're good. All right. So he walked into the house and hit his wife with the mallet before shooting her. As the family arose with noises, he systematically shot them all. His sister-in-law and his 7 children ranging in ages from 19 to 4. He then sat down, had a beer, before remembering his toddler nephew was still alive and reloaded his gun. So the nephew was shot. They were all killed in their beds, and there is a photo of the nephew in the cot.
Jesus.
Bartholomew then made a coffee, took some aspirin, for that headache, covered the bodies with blankets, and he called a local doctor and told what had happened. So he appeared at the Adelaide Magistrates Court on October 3rd during a police interview and stated that he wanted to kill his wife only, but after shooting his daughter Christine, he realised that he loved his children so much and could not leave them behind. Oh, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
He was tried at the Supreme Court where he pleaded guilty to the murder of his wife and was sentenced to death by hanging on November 23rd, 1971.
Oh shit.
What about the Vietnam soldier?
However, he was released on parole on December 10th, 1979 after serving 7.5 years in prison.
For 10 killings?
Wait.
Sorry, what?
10 killings. 10 killings, and he served 7.5 years.
How? How?
I don't know. I could not. You know what? This I googled and googled and googled. I clicked on that many. It was a hard case to cover, and I don't truly understand why.
Was he maybe released
gave no
because he was
reason.
mentally deranged? He couldn't be held culpable?
He did try to plead that he was depressive because he explained like the splitting headache and the voices, but that didn't get him an insanity trial at all. And he did try to argue depression. And that he wanted to, his intention was only to kill his wife, but then he ended up killing everyone, and for some reason that was a good enough excuse. So
When was this?
fucked if
What
I know.
year was this?
1971.
So not like
was released in-
1600s. Like
No.
What the fuck?
1979. He killed 10 people and was released after 7.5 years.
Did he kill the Vietnam soldier? So his
I don't
kids get
understand
it.
how you can go from like hanging, convicted of, and he hangs to death, and then out in his 7 years.
There must have been a mistrial.
Sorry.
It must have been a mistrial.
In this take, I laughed. I probably shouldn't have laughed, but I laughed. Let me continue. Clifford Cecil Bartholomew, who assumed a new identity as Clifford Palmer, passed away 16 years ago, aged 72. But his second family only recently learned of the extent of his killing. His second wife, Merlin Juliet Palmer, died in 2012, aged 83, after marrying Palmer in 1983, which is 4 years after his release from prison. His second wife, Merlin, I just read that. Her children believe their mother, a devout Christian, was motivated by her faith, which transferred into a willingness to save the soul of Palmer. It was only when the seven children cleaned out the contents of the family home in Victoria, where Palmer had lived with his wife Mel for 22 years, that they found his old criminal papers. He never disrespected our mother, and he'd hardly raised a voice in more than 20 years together. He was a gentleman. He loved us all, and we all loved him. 7 adopted children of a serial killer who murdered 10 people, including his 7 biological children, say they can't believe their Poppy Cliff's scary past.
He must have been he must have been mentally ill. He must have been assessed and released. Like that guy who ate that dude on the bus.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So how weird though that he killed 7 of his biological children, remarried, 7. And his new wife adopted 7. Like, you can't tell me that's whack.
Although everyone had 7
so
kids.
Whack.
Like my nana had 7 kids. So I think 7's like a thing.
That's crazy.
This was, for some reason, a really weird case because it happened in the 70s, obviously, only in Adelaide. The 3 or 4 articles that I could access about it pretty much only had the same information. Everything that I wrote there are from 4 different articles, and it still isn't that much information. They didn't give much information in terms of the crime scene as to why he was released after 7.5 years. But
we can assume that was a good reason.
That's literally it. And I just stumbled across this, and I was like, okay, he's just killed 10 people, and he's released after 7.5 years.
When you were like, his new name was Clive Palmer, I was like, when you were like Clifford Palmer, I was like, Clive Palmer? Question mark?
Clive, what is this?
He made a lot of money after these killings, huh?
No, yeah. So,
fuck.
It's crazy. It's also crazy how like nothing else happened. Like when he was released.
Yeah.
Like
that we know of.
Yeah. That I could find. But like, I wanted to do a small one today because I'm doing a really heavy one next week. But
oh God.
I just like to kill 10 people and get away with 7.5 years and then remarry with the same amount of children. It's just weird to me. I just find that quite odd.
Knowing. They didn't even know.
And to say that he was a totally different man to commit these crimes and then just go back to the perfect civilian.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
What did he do for work?
7.5 years.
Do we know what he did for work?
He worked. I believe he worked originally on the farm that they were at. Let me find it.
So obviously he sold that farm after he killed everybody.
Yep.
I'd assume.
Yep.
He's there. He was a real estate agent that sold it. Oh no. Oh, 100. He looks like something from Harry Potter. He looks like one of those Green Guts goblins. 0 out of 10. No, thank you.
No, so pleading guilty to the wife of his murder, though his punishment was later commuted to life imprisonment, he was released on parole 7.5 years later.
Oh, jeez. Is that back then?
The couple occupied a cottage on his employee's property, which was the farm.
Right.
Yeah,
so it wasn't his farm to sell. Okay. Shit, that is.
So the ex-serviceman was recovering from wounds, and he just became jealous, and then he just snapped. He literally just snapped, and it was, from what I could tell, that it was kind of, I don't mean to say a clean killing, but he shot everyone, and that was that.
Family annihilators, man. Jeez.
So this was the biggest case of family-icide in Australia up until I think it was 2015.
Then someone broke that
record.
record.
I'm not sure what overtook. Yeah, I'm not sure what overtook that.
Well, I guess we have next week.
We are.
Oh God. Erin's face is frozen in a very fun, very fun. It was like.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
That is.
So yeah, but it was just kind of more of a case of like not even brutality, but just a case of like
weird.
This actually happened. Like, it's
Like,
weird.
that's so weird to me that he got out in 7 years.
7 years, had 7 children,
And had 7 more children.
and had 7 more children.
Shit.
I just put those dots together when I was just like,
Yeah. 7 is his lucky number?
what's 777 stand for?
Unlucky and lucky.
It's one more.
I
It's
mean,
one more
you
than
know-
the devil. 666 777.
I'm gonna Google that 777 number meaning.
Oh my god, that means winning at the casino when it's 777.
Oh.
According to the American publication of the Oxford Study Bible, 777 represents the threefold perfection of the Trinity. While
God.
777 can be contrasted against the number of the beast as 666.
Huh. So it's like.
Because apparently it's 777's an angel number.
Huh. Well.
Well, he wasn't no angel.
Well, we've
No, he
learned that.
wasn't.
Well, he got. Someone's looking out for him because he got 7 years for 10
Someone's
killings.
like, you're right.
That's
You're
true.
right.
7
And he died when he was like in his 80s. Like,
Well, he couldn't. Imagine if he
I
was
know,
like
it's just
777 and he died at 77. Wait, what year did he die?
I don't actually know.
Because if it's 1977, I'm going to kill myself. He's.
This was him and his new wife, apparently. This is a...
Why did-
remember if-
I'll put it up on the screen. Just screenshot it, send it to me, and I'll put it up on the screen. He kind of looks like who's that guy that owns Tesla? Elon Musk. Why does he remind me of
He
Elon
does.
Musk? From just what I saw, just I could barely see anything. Well, you know what else is happening with a 7? In another 7 days, you get to hear our lovely voices again. Because we will be
Also,
back
panic.
next week. In 7 years' time.
God.
So it'll be just Jamie and Erin again next week. We are alternating. I will see you in a fortnight's time. I know it's going to be very hard without me, but we have very much enjoyed talking to you today. Today, and look forward to seeing you again next week. But yeah,
And remember, guys, you can't spell manslaughter without laughter.
Oh, well, I wanted
She
to-
went
can
like
we
this,
try
she went
that
like,
again,
I
and
was
we're
like-
like all together.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, try to go. Yeah, I want to do it again. All right. You
Are we saying it
can't.
together?
Yeah, we're saying it together. Count us in.
1, 2,
Wait.
1, 2,
You
3.
can't.
You can't spell manslaughter.
That's it. We got it. 10 out of 10. We did it. We did it. 10 out of 10. We'll see you next week. Bye.
What?